Everybody, calling to order the Monday, May 18th, 2020 City Council meeting. We'll all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Janino. Here. Here. Councilor Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rotundo. Absent. Councilor Sereno.
Here.
Here. Councilor Visconti.
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambuto.
Here.
Here. And Council President Keith.
Here, and good evening. If I could just remind everyone, tonight, obviously, we're doing this via Zoom. We've had some success. I think you councils are very familiar. If you can consider using the raise hand function if you wish to speak. Also, if we could refrain from speaking more than once on any matters, we really appreciate that, as we have many items in front of us tonight. Also, any attendees, please make sure that you're on mute when you're not talking. And of course, councilors, before you're ready to talk, make sure you are unmuted. Madam Clerk, if we could also ask the suspension of rules to take the last item up for bid in advance. If everyone would vote on suspension of rules to take up Richard Viscay's communications.
So moved, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so this is calendar item number 46, calendar item number 45, communication from the city auditor / budget director relative to the budget timeline and financial overview.
Mr. Viscay, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, I believe Ashley's going to bring it up for me on the screen.
Thank you. I'll cue that up right now.
All right, so like we did last year, we wanted to give a financial overview for the fiscal year 2020 and kind of create a timeline for the fiscal year 21 budget. I know there's a lot of questions about what's going on and how we're going to manage through this pandemic. So if you go to that next slide there, Ashley.
Yep.
So we just want to review the financial condition of the city and create a timeline for the 21 budget submittal and to convey any relative information with the goal to kind of present the important financial information to the city council, give you an update on the impact of the pandemic on our finances, and go over some revenue assumptions for the 2021 budget, and to also just let you know about when we plan to submit the budget so that you could plan accordingly on the Ways and Means Committee, and also to answer any questions of the council. So I'll do my best to be brief and just go through this presentation. So next slide, please, Ashley. So the economic slowdown has had an adverse effect on many of our local revenues. Real estate, motor vehicle excise taxes, local meals and rooms, building permits, fines, penalties, and interest income. So as you know, these revenues are estimated at the beginning of the year when we set the budget. We do our best to be conservative with these revenue estimates, but they're also realistic. We don't want to be too conservative and overtax the residents of the city, but if we're too aggressive and something like this comes about, we really put ourselves behind the 8 ball. So if we don't realize the revenue that we estimate and we spend all the money that we appropriated, what can happen is a revenue deficit. So right now, what we're trying to do is for fiscal year 2020, we want to try to close the year without having a revenue deficit. So we've put a, I can go to the next slide here.
Okay.
We put a budget freeze on right now. So basically all of our general fund and enterprise fund expenditures, other than contracted services and things that are absolutely necessary, we've shut down the expenditure to try to create some turn back to offset the revenues. But just to give you an idea of where we're at. Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I apologize. Oops. I'm sorry. Hold on.
That's all right. It was bad news anyway.
Oh, is that back? No.
No.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting for it
You
to
can
come up.
continue with all the slides, Mr. Viskey.
Yeah, I was just gonna do that. Over the 9 months last year, a couple of our larger estimated revenues are motor vehicle excise and building permits and licenses. At this point last year, we had about $7.7 million in the door through 9 months. Compared to this fiscal year, we have $4.8 million. Now, some of that was a timing issue on motor vehicle excise getting out the door. I do have the April numbers here, which will paint a little bit better of a picture, but we have collected $4.4 million of motor vehicle excise compared to $5.1 million we were last year. So we had collected 96% of our revenues at this point for motor vehicle excise, and we're only at about 78% right now. Building permits have also decreased due to the pandemic. $3 million this point last year. We got $2.3 million this year. Our rooms and meals tax, they look pretty good. We're on good pace for the first 9 months, but as the slide shows that our fourth quarter payments are March, April, and May, and those are gonna see a steep decline. So I won't have that information till June, but we are anticipating a very steep drop off of those revenues for the last quarter of the fiscal year. Next slide, please. So what are we doing now to offset the loss of revenue? Basically, everything's on the table. Right now, we're looking at reductions in force. We're cutting back on some of our services, eliminating some of our programs. We're trying to restructure any debt we have to offset some of the debt obligations for fiscal year 21 and beyond. At our next retirement board meeting, we'll discuss our pension obligation and if there's any opportunities for restructuring or deferring any of those payments. And at some point, we're gonna have to look at our health insurance because the fixed costs are really what drives this budget. Debt service, pension obligations, health insurance. Those are the real large numbers. We're not gonna solve this problem with cutting off supplies and such. So we are really looking at any and all of the above to offset the loss in revenue. Next slide, please. Well, the good news is that state aid for 2020 should remain unaffected. So we shouldn't have any 9C cuts. All the revenue that we budgeted for the state should be coming in. FEMA and MEMA reimbursements are expected to cover a lot of these unanticipated costs we have.
Can you hear me?
Hello, George.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
Good. City's been diligent about sticking with the stabilization fund policies and putting money away every year from its free cash and such. So as it stands right now, we have $8.5 million of stabilization fund in the general fund and $7.2 million in the water and sewer. And it is anticipated that the city will be using the stabilization accounts to keep the balance, keep the budget balanced in fiscal year 21. So we don't have severe service level cuts here. How much we're going to use the stabilization, well, that remains to be seen based upon current information we're getting from some of the federal money coming in that's supposed to help the cities and towns weather the storm here, and also to the adjustments we're making in the 2021 budget so that we can offset some of the revenue shortfalls with some synergies and restructuring of some of the ways we do business in the city. Next slide, please. With regard to the budget, Mass General Law states that within 170 days of the annual organization of the city, the mayor shall submit to the council the annual budget. There's no mandated formula for this. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but we do it with the practices that are are considered the best practices in municipal finance. Next slide, please. So the budget timeline on capital budget and 5-year capital plan. We have submitted the 5-year capital plan at the last council meeting for both the general fund, and new for this year was a 5-year capital plan for water and sewer enterprise fund. We were happy to have you appropriate the money for the pay-as-you-go appropriations, which allows our city departments to purchase and acquire the goods and services that were funded with pay-as-you-go money. We do not expect to ask for any bond authorizations with regard to the capital plan until the late summer, early fall, because we were all set to go bond about $40 million right when the pandemic struck. We were looking at rates in the 2s, maybe even low 2s. And when this pandemic came about, we had a big spike in the rates, upwards of 200 points. So after speaking with the financial advisors, we decided to just issue short-term debt to let this pandemic subside so that we can hopefully realize those attractive rates on bonding in the fall. So like I said earlier, we're looking at all of our debt, looking at anything we can restructure, and hopefully that in the fall, we can get some favorable rates and realize some savings on existing debt, and also get the best rates possible for some of the bigger projects we've already approved, like our DPW facility and our Point of Pines Fire Station and such. So next slide, please. On the operating budgets for the general enterprise fund, this is just a summary of what departments that covers: general fund, public safety, public works, human services, education. All of those budgets will be culled over and finalized within the next couple of weeks, and we will present an operating budget to the council on June 8th. Next slide, please. As you probably know, maybe some of the new people don't, we do present a budget that is consistent with the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. It is the only national awards program for government budgeting, and annually they'll give an award for distinguished budget if we maintain and cover all of the points and have all the compliance with regard to the GFOA budget guidelines. We have been lucky enough to receive the Distinguished Budget Award from fiscal year 14 to just recently we got the award for fiscal year 2020. So we do hope that next budget will be our 7th straight GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. Next slide, please. Just a brief description of what a GFOA budget is. It's designed to be a document that basically any ordinary citizen can pick up and read and understand. It serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communication device for those who read it. That final submittal is due to the GFOA 90 days after the adopted budget by the legislative body, which is you. So typically right around mid-September, we pull all the documents together, make all the adjustments, check it once, check it twice, and we send it off to the GFOA for their approval. What we've done over the last couple of years is we've taken that approved budget and we bound it up for you and given you a nice package. And if anyone's holding on to their binders from last year, if you can take all your old documents out and submit those binders, I will reuse them. They're not cheap. They're about 20 bucks a piece. So hope to get those back, but everyone should have got a bound copy of the 2020 budget to use as a reference when contemplating the 2021 budget. So again, this 2021 budget will be the 8th consecutive year that we hope to get the Distinguished Budget Award. Next, please. So I was trying to make this brief, and happy to answer any questions offline if they're more involved, but whatever the council president would like me to do. But just wanted to let everyone know that the administration is closely monitoring the 2021 budget process at the state level and we are proceeding cautiously with cherry sheet revenue estimates. We continue to monitor the effects of the estimated receipts in the city. Like I said, motor vehicle excise, building permits, meals tax, rooms tax, all of those go into the bottom line that help us pay for our teachers and our police and our fire and all that. So every month I get these numbers, I'm scrutinizing them, I'm looking at them, and trying to come up with best estimates for 2021 so that we can have a responsible, balanced budget. The budget freeze that was put on at the beginning of the month, and we hope that those turnbacks will help offset some of the losses in revenue. Again, we're kind of in the heat of it right now, so some of this we won't know exactly until, you know, maybe a month from now. We'll see what the effects of April was, which will be the first full month of the pandemic and its effects on us. We anticipate the 2021 budget being very lean, but it will be balanced with revenue adjustments that will anticipate the effects of this economic slowdown. And you know, it really goes a long way in some of our good financial practices and our reserves and the way we've been steadfast in keeping to our policies. And it's allowing us right now to not contemplate 1/12 budgets. We want to put together a budget and go business as usual. We have some contingency plans if things go really awry one way or another, but we do have ample stabilization accounts to kind of offset those extraordinary unforeseen events. We certainly don't want to get into the practice of balancing budgets on one-time revenues, but I think we can all agree that this is a pretty rare occasion. And as they say, it's a rainy day fund, and it's raining now. So our best budget will be something that will not contemplate using stabilization funds unless absolutely necessary. And even some of those decisions might have to be made once the fiscal year begins in September, October, when we kind of get a feel for how the economic recovery is going. So basically just want to let everyone know that we are on the same page as we have been every year since I've been able to doing a budget. We plan on submitting the budget around the same time, and we're making all the difficult decisions to hopefully come in with a lean, responsible budget for your review and approval. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Viskey. We do have a few councilors wishing to speak, and I wanted to make sure the council knew that we will be submitting, the city will be submitting their budget to us by the June 8th meeting. And then, of course, it'll go to Ways and Means Subcommittee, Council Power Subcommittee. But I know Council Serino has a question. Council Serino?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, Mr. President, and Mr. Viskey. I want to thank you and the mayor for being totally upfront at the onset of this process. We know it's going to be a tough year for sure. Just a quick question on the offset loss of revenue slide. As we move forward and as you know, decisions are going to have to be made, are those in order of preference or in no particular order?
What in order of preference in no particular order? I'm sorry.
If to offset revenue loss, would reductions in force first, followed by cutting services, or is that in no particular order? Are those
those are in no particular order. I'm just wanted to let the council know that we are looking at all options. Certainly reductions in force are the last thing we want to do, but unfortunately, I think we're at that point where we would have to look at some reductions in force, if not permanently, then at least temporarily, because we balance this budget based upon estimated revenues. Now, you know, we're used to seeing $5 and $6 million worth of free cash the last couple of years. There's reasons why we generate that, is because we budget somewhat conservatively on our revenue estimates. So, you know, last year we collected $2 million over what we estimated, and that goes right to the bottom line. So I don't want to say we have a $2 million cushion, but the first $2 million in lost revenue, we could probably sustain without any negative impacts. But if it goes further and we lose more revenue than that without putting a budget freeze on or other items that would help us keep us in balance, we'd look at a revenue deficit that we have to raise, which just exacerbates the problem. So it's a little bit of a tricky track we're on, and probably take me too long to describe everything, but we are looking at everything to try to mitigate these losses in revenues.
And
Thank you.
one more question. So if we do end up going toward the reductions in force, would you guys consider first a voluntary layoff, early retirement type program, maybe an incentive if we have to go that route before, considering other options?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we did offer early retirement incentive. We're not able to change Chapter 32, which is the retirement laws that may add years to your age or to your service. Some of those early retirement incentives have happened in the past. I was on a conference call today. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of traction behind them coming out with a new early retirement incentive with regard to adding years of service. But we did offer a buyout of 20% of your base salary for people who would have retired before May 1st. We did have 4 or 5 people take advantage of that. Those certainly help. And every time we get a decision like that, we run it through the budget and all the iterations. And for every one of those that happens, it's definitely saving probably a new person's job. So we did offer that up, and I believe we're about to offer it to police and fire. We didn't want to offer it right away to public safety because we know how important that was in this pandemic. But I believe we have offered that out to the police and fire now. We're waiting for every union has to look at it, make sure they want to do it. So there's a lot of communications right now going on between Human Resource Department, myself, and all the collective bargaining units.
And that was just one last comment that I wanted to just quickly make, that I hope, public safety and public works are two, and they encompass 4 departments that I think are absolutely vital, and, to do everything we can to preserve and not, go into that in those 4 departments. That would hopefully be good. Thank you.
We're doing our best. Thank you.
Councilor Rotundo and then Councilor Powers. And just remember, this is we're well in advance of our budget coming up in a few weeks. Councilor Rotundo.
All right. And Rick, I apologize. I was a little bit late into the discussion. I had some technical difficulties. If you could tell me in short where we are as what you predict we're going to be having in the sense of shortfalls for next year or this year, so to speak. Your best guess.
I would say on local receipts, we are right now we're off about $2 million where we should be. Some of it's timing. We've passed laws to allow people to defer interest and penalties on their excise bills and their tax bills. So we can always hope that everyone waits till that June 29th and everybody pays on that date and we come out even. I wouldn't bet on that. So I think a lot of this money may be deferred more so than lost. But I'd say for fiscal year 2020, we're looking at multi-million-dollar shortfalls in our local receipts.
So we're talking,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we're talking about $2 to $4 million between this year, possibly next year, following the same suit, considering the economic trends that we're following.
I'd say next year is a little more difficult to estimate. Again, governor came out today, started slowly opening up business. How that becomes, how that traction hits up might be telling to see how it goes. I think some of this revenue is not so much lost as it is deferred. I mean, fines for parking and other stuff like parking meters and such, that money never comes back. But if people are going to build in the city and they're waiting to pull a building permit, we hope to realize that, although it might come a little later. So I think we're going to be looking at free cash numbers in 2020 and the fiscal year 2020 that won't look anything like they've been the last couple of years. And the hope is that 2021 will begin to recover. I think our biggest question mark right now is where the state's going to come in with their budget. I think I have a pretty good handle on local receipts and their estimates. It's the state number, I think, that we got more question marks on.
And what are we thinking as far as insurer, as far as where we are with our stop loss carrier? What do we cover up to at this point? And are we having anybody looking at mitigation of those dollars? In the past, Stacy Borens, former Revere resident, MD, does a lot of consulting. And her job is to look at bills up to whatever our stop loss carrier. As you know, we are self-covered to a certain point. And within that number, she generally is able to find between 10 and 30% of basically recovered loss through insurers. Where are we at this point for our stop loss carrier? So what do we cover?
Just one clear, stop loss on what type of revenue? What are we talking about?
So our general insurer for our healthcare. So my understanding is we're self-covered up to what? 50,000?
Oh, yeah, we have our stop loss on healthcare is $250,000. And I think that from people I've talked to about health insurance, we actually probably will have a favorable year actually this year, because while there's a lot of expenses going on with regard to COVID, there's a whole lot of stuff that's being deferred and put off. So my understanding is that we'll probably have a positive year in the health insurance trust, which is, definitely good news
Do
considering.
we have anybody
all the
trying to
benefits.
look at the retention of dollars?
Well, we have Cook and Company as our health insurance advisor, and I haven't really pursued that much,
Yeah,
George,
that's,
but
I mean, for
can
me, that's the
certainly-
big thing. I think we can make a lot of movement there because unfortunately, people are not looking at what could be covered under COVID, recouping that money on the federal side. And obviously changing the dynamics, whether it be co-pays, for that matter, even changing the way that our stop loss carrier is, I think we'll have a dramatic outcome. I can tell you some communities that have used and outsourced someone to check into the stop loss carrier. So within that first 0 to 250,000, a lot of times what happens is people are double billed, people are billed that they shouldn't be billed, and you're able to recoup a lot of money. So if there's any ability to think about that, and here's the thing with these companies, they only get paid if we do.
Counselor, there's a lot of discussions. I mean, we have other councilors wishing to speak.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Powers?
just-
Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. President. Richard, I just have one question for you. I've heard rumors out on the street that certain people are retiring, certain people are being, had their hours cut, et cetera, particularly to the people that are retiring. Are those positions we will be able to do without on the short term for a while till we get our house back in order?
Yeah, I mean, we don't plan on filling any positions that of people are retired. Again, we're looking at reorganizing some departments and restructuring. A lot of this has collective bargaining and impact bargaining effects. So I don't want to speak too much about it on this meeting, but it's safe to say that every union in the city has been contacted about the current situation, and we're working through it with those respective unions.
Well, thank you. I've heard 3 different names mentioned out there, and I'm sure there are many more. And those 3 names had probably a $150,000 price tag attached to them for the entire 3. And that's why I brought that question up. And I would hope that, when people just are retiring, that we're trying to keep it that way, at least for the short term. I know it may affect services to some degree, but so be it. We're in a tight spot here. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morbido and Councilor Zambuto wishing to speak. Councilor Morbido.
Unmute.
Councilor Rotundo asked a few of my questions, but I have a couple more. Did the city were there any savings for the city on the 15% premium discounts for auto insurance? Did we save any money?
I have communication with our insurance agent. We may be getting a credit on our insurance as long as we can demonstrate that there are certain vehicles that were not used over the stretch of time where we've had to turn down. So not that we're getting necessarily a reduction in our rate, but we could be getting credits for vehicles that weren't operating during the pandemic.
Excellent.
And
Also, one more question. In the next fiscal budget, are there any city initiatives or projects that we're going to be deferring until revenue rebounds?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of services that are on the back burner right now. We don't know where we are with our senior work program because they are the at-risk communities. So we certainly have to be very cognizant of our contracted services because unions don't take kindly to us using contractors and riffing bodies. So yeah, the whole budget from top to bottom is being scrutinized, and any cost savings or deferrals we can have, we're certainly doing it. But there is a level of service that the people have come to expect in the city, and we have to make sure that we can at least maintain those.
I want to thank you as well. I know it's very difficult to rework a budget. You probably had something in mind, and then here comes this pandemic. So I know a lot goes into creating the budget. So we appreciate your work that you do and all the time you put and effort you're putting into it. I have a lot more questions, but I'll ask you offline.
Okay, no problem.
Councilor Zambuto?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the finance director. I don't have any questions because we should be asking these questions in another meeting. We've got a long agenda here tonight. I appreciate all the personnel changes that are going on. There'll be plenty of time to discuss it. I don't think tonight's the proper time to go any further with it. So I really wanted to try to end the debate to this and move on here. Thank you.
We have an anxious group. Councilor Guanasso?
Well, in the same vein, I could go along with that very well, but
That's
if
good
we're
for the
allowing
goose.
people to speak, I also want to speak.
Go
And I
ahead.
think Richard has stated very clearly that we have a rainy day fund, so a stabilization fund set up, and it's pouring. So now is the proper time to use that. And I think that the most important ingredient within our community is its personnel. So we ought to take care of that and make sure that that's a viable force, and we take care of them. And everything after that we can handle. So I look forward to this going to Ways and Means.
Thank you. And we also have one attendee wishing to speak. We'll allow that person to speak. Name and address for the record, sir. Eric?
Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Hi, guys. Mr. Viscay, I just have a couple questions related to some of your commentary tonight. You'd mentioned the DPW building and the Point of Pines Fire Station. Were those already approved? Are those projects in jeopardy now that the budget might have some constrictions?
They're not.
No, just we were going to bond the entire amounts of the authorizations because we were at record low rates, and then we got hit with the pandemic, and it literally spiked up from around 2% to 4%. So we did
Short
6
answer
month
is they're
temporary
not.
bond.
Okay.
Short answer is they are not.
Okay.
They are
couple more
not.
questions. Thank you. Next was revenue shortfalls. You mentioned that we're going to be off about 2 million. Does the city have a projected rate to collect that money? I know you mentioned that when some fees like parking fees are gone, they're gone forever, but I'm just thinking like excise tax and things like that. Would you expect that to come back, or do you think we might lose that forever?
Yeah, those are secured debts, so usually we'll get them, but by deferring the interest and penalties, I just think that's going to be a lag, and of course the ability to pay. So I expect the taxes that are secured by vehicles or properties should come in, but just it's a matter of the timing.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the last is a consulting question, so to speak. So last November, when Dana and John Varengia were up in front of the council and they were setting the rate for the levy, there was a strong desire to lower taxes. Obviously, this is going to be a very challenging budget season. Are there any recommendations that you could give to the council or even to the mayor to consider to possibly decrease the tax burden on residents at the end of this year?
I don't know about the decrease in the tax burden on residents as a whole. I mean, I know that there are certain things that we may be looking into, maybe expanding the senior work off abatement program and the water abatement program, and to provide some relief for those who may need it. But right now, I don't think you'd be looking at a tax cut on your property taxes at this point, because the shortfall of all the other revenues, it would just be if state aid was coming in real healthy and all the local receipts coming in real healthy, now you might have that third piece of pie that could either go down or remain steady. But you can't drop your three key pieces of revenue and have any kind of budget that's been accustomed to seeing here. You'd have draconian cuts in all services.
Mr. Viscay, we
Yes.
appreciate you coming in here, giving us a preview of what's to come. I think it's safe to say as a council, we're going to have our work cut out for us. I know Council Powers is going to be, we're going to be getting the budget to Council Powers on the 8th and the committee. We appreciate you being here, but I think as a council, we all need to be prepared that it's going to be a tough year and we're going to have to really do our job and our part of reviewing the budget. But thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here
and
today.
I appreciate the time, and any council needs any questions answered, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
So motion to place on file.
Place on file. Thanks, Rich.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordered. May we go back to regular business?
Back to the regular order of business.
Thank you.
Calendar item number 2, approval of the journal of the regular meeting of May 4th.
So ordered.
Calendar item number 3, on to public hearings. Hearing called as ordered on a request by the city of Revere to amend the zoning ordinances by establishing regulations for small cell wireless antenna.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is going to go to zoning, but this is also a public hearing. I know we had, so we're going to open it up to proponents and opponents, and then it's going to go to zoning. Any proponents wishing to speak? Any proponents? We have any councils? Sorry, proponents. We have a person in the audience, Larry. Where do you go, Larry? Mr. As a proponent. Larry Washington?
Yes, Larry Washington.
You're a
Yes.
proponent?
Yes,
Point of order.
This is open for proponents, Counselor.
Point of order.
State your point.
We, considering the length of all these particulars, through you to the clerk, are we able to take them up? Now we got to do it one by one.
Yeah, one by one, but this is a different one, and
Thank
then
you,
the
but-
rest are going to be the small cells. You're right. So this is a public hearing for the ordinance that we're trying to set. So I agree with you. We'll talk about that next. Mr. Washington, continue as a proponent.
Council President O'Keefe and council members, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Larry Washington. I'm Senior Counsel for Regulatory Affairs for Extenet Systems. And I wanted to say that we support the ordinance. We had submitted some changes and we would still like to see some further revisions, but we endorse the undertaking of the council and the city to provide a streamlined process for moving these wireless facilities forward and siting them. But we still would like to raise some concerns, but we certainly support the endeavor of the council.
Okay, thank you. And your proposed revisions will be reviewed in zoning, and then they could finalize this as well. Any other
Thank you very much.
proponents wishing to speak? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? Any opponents? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any councils wishing to speak? And just a reminder, this is going to go to zoning subcommittee. Seeing here none, we're going to close that side of the meeting. So everyone, all in favor of referring this to zoning subcommittee?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So ordered.
Calendar item number 4, hearing called as ordered on the application of Bernard Schramm, trustee of the 257 Washington Avenue Realty Trust, for the purpose of considering the discontinuance and abandonment of a certain portion of Lincoln Street as illustrated on the petitioner's plan.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and we would like to open this up to any proponents.
Yes,
Proponents.
Corey Rhodes with D'Ambrosio Brown for the petitioner. Very much, councilors. To summarize this petition, there is a small paper street on Washington, off of Washington Avenue, that is actually a leftover extension of Lincoln Street that was cut off when Route 1 was created, and left this short little piece of roadway that was never built out, never constructed between Route 1 and Washington Avenue. And it has sat like that for 50 years and had some detrimental effects to the property and just remained underutilized for decades. So we've brought forward this petition to ask that it be discontinued. My client owns both sides of the roadway. The paper street doesn't connect to any other property.
So listen, Stacy.
So we believe it is a fairly straightforward petition and ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. So we're still on the public hearing side. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Any proponents? And closing that side, seeing and hearing none, we'll open it to councils after. Any opponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And any councils wishing to speak? Councilor McKenna and then Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Mr. President. Corey, I was just wondering, they're gonna develop that land?
At this point, the current owner, he's an older guy. I think he is looking to kind of plan some retirement and looking to sell the property, market it. It would be much better to market a property that didn't have this paper street running down the middle of it. What happens after that, I would assume it's going to have to go through any kind of zoning process, either the city council or the ZBA. And we'll definitely keep the council informed.
One more question, please.
Yes.
If there's 2 billboards on that piece of land, if you sell that, would they have to get rid of those billboards?
This is just be my estimation. If somebody's going to build something there, just given how it's a kind of a narrow lot, I would expect those billboards would go, which I think everybody would like to see.
Yes, that's why I'm asking. Definitely.
Thank you, Councilor. And Councilor Sereno, and then we have Novoselsky, Morbido, and then I'd like to speak as well.
Great.
Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've spoken with Corey. It has been underutilized. You know, my whole life, that's been a vacant lot. And Councilor McKenna asked the same question I was about to ask with regard to the billboards. If we can remove those billboards, that's a great step in the right direction. You know, that street, Lincoln Street, goes to nowhere. I mean, it goes on the other side, but Route 1 is there. So I don't see a problem with it. I haven't received any feedback about it, and I'm okay with it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I've gone through this in the past with abandoning streets, paper streets. And I know there's a process that we have to go through with all our departments to get approval and make sure there's no utility easements through it. So I want to make sure that we go through that process. And also, I believe that even if we abandon it, the neighbors don't get it automatically. I think there still has to be a bidding process to put it out for bid. So I think that's the way it goes. So I just want to make sure that all protocols are followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morbido. You're struggling with that mute button, Councilor.
Oh,
There you go.
here I am blaming the council president when it's me. Councilor Rhodes, question for you. What is the acreage on the piece of land? How much square? What are we looking for on that lot? What is the size?
It would, I think it would be, give me one moment to just run it here. So the paper street itself,
Yeah.
should be around, and this is very rough. It's around 2,700 square feet.
Okay. What is it titled with the city? What's the lot name? Like, is there
it doesn't have
physical
lots.
address, or is it's just a lot number?
It doesn't even have a lot.
It's just a paper street and that's
city.
it.
Yeah, because it goes back. I'm not even sure. I think into when Revere was really being laid out and just roadways were being put onto plans. And since it was recorded at the registry, it is a way, and to terminate it, even if the city doesn't use it, there's no activity there. It's never been constructed. We do have to come in front of the city council to ask for a discontinuance, just to make sure that.
Thank you, Attorney Rhodes.
And Mr. Rhodes, thank you. I believe so that this is to help probably make this lot more buildable for the other lots that are adjacent to it, correct?
Yeah, just a more stable property, basically.
And then just want to also state for the record, I think City Engineer Nick Rystrom was in favor of this, Madam Clerk. No, not in favor.
No, he resubmitted, this public hearing already occurred during the previous council session last year. And he's just resubmitting his letter of opposition as there is a supposed water pipe running underneath.
Okay,
And they just have to investigate that.
so for the record, city engineer has opposition to it.
I think there is some concerns that there might be a pipe there, but that it is actually not in use. And as far as I've discussed with my client, that he would be happy to move that and provide an easement to the city if it turns out to be active. But I think at this point, it believes it just runs into Route 1 and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere.
So I would imagine, so this is going to go into Public Works, and I would imagine we can map out some of the details. Obviously, if the client or the person that wanted this so badly would take the responsibility, I think that, some of us would be in favor, but of course we would want them to take that responsibility, as I'm sure the city engineer would as well. Any other councils wishing to speak? If not, we're going to close this up and we're going to send it to Public Works. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Supported.
Thank you, Councilor.
Oh, wait, pardon me. I'm sorry. Councilor Zambudo just raised his hand. Councilor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think normally these go to zoning. I don't know why this would be going to Public Works.
I think it was referred to Public Works for,
It should be referred to zoning.
yep. Would you like me to refer to zoning?
I would.
All in favor? Everyone else? Okay, in favor, everyone in favor of zoning? All in
Thank you.
favor? Opposed, so ordered. We'll go to zoning.
Thank you very much, councilors.
Thank you, Council. All right, so I know Madam Clerk's going to bring up the next 25 motions or public hearings. There's going to be 25 public hearings in regards to small cell. Reminding that these will all go to zoning. So I would ask that you keep your comments brief, or if at all. I know that we've received a number of calls from our constituents, and we can put those all in the file for each one, and then we can go from there. But just a reminder that there's 25 public hearings, so bear with me. All right, Madam Clerk.
Hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan to install a small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 134 Proctor Ave.
And Mr. Milan, if you could keep your comments brief.
Yes, so thank you everyone for being here tonight and hearing us. I have Extenet Legal Representative Larry Washington and my colleague and project manager Keenan Bryn. Obviously, these are all virtually the same, so we're just trying to move these along as quickly as possible, and we appreciate everyone's help.
Okay, so we're going to open this first one up, 20-152, to any proponents. Any proponents? We're going to see Councilor McKenna. You're going to be opened up. I'm going to open
No,
up
when
to
the
Councilor
council
Tappan.
speak. Yeah, I know. I just
Councilor
raised my
Tappan.
hand.
All right, so any proponents? Okay, so any opponents? Any opponents we're going to close this out of the proponents. Any opponents wishing to speak? Any opponents? Seeing, hearing none. We're going to open it up to the councilors. Councilor McKenna, then Janino, and Zambudo.
Thank you,
Guanasso.
Mr. President. I just want to say that this is how I feel. I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but I think it's a disgrace that all these companies that have submitted 25 applications for a special permit during a pandemic, nothing like taking advantage of a community during a major crisis. The other thing I'd like to ask is small cell wireless equipment, is those 5Gs that
Yes.
you're putting on? Yes.
Yes.
How come it's not stated when you write the application for the special permit? It says small cell wireless equipment. Why is that not put in wording as a 5G? So I'm asking a question.
Mr. Milan, would you like to
I'd like to ask for our legal representative, Larry Washington, to speak on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Gotcha. Mr. Washington? Mr. Washington?
My apologies, I was talking into mute. These locations are not 5G, they're 4G. To clarify for the record, 5G equipment will not be on these locations.
So the 25 in front of us are all 4G?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
All right, so fellow councilors, we have Councilor Janino, then Zambuto, then Guanasso, then Rotundo. We're gonna go in that order. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we're gonna go through these all tonight. I'm not gonna speak on behalf of all of them. I'm just gonna speak once because it's in relation to all of them. The 5G towers, you know, I had an issue with. This one being it's 4G. We still don't know. We still don't know what it could cause. We still don't know what the detriment could be to the neighborhood. And more importantly than all of that, there's really no business for these in the city council. There's nothing we can do. We're legally obligated to move them through our procedures. However, I don't think it's really the right place for them. I think that there needs to be a situation that these are out of the council. I know I've spoke with the city clerk about it, and I know that they are working on an ordinance so that it won't come here, because this is really just a procedure. But the reality of it is it doesn't fit here. So I struggle with them. You know that I'm against them. And again, I just think it's bogging on our business in the council. So I hope that we can really get this resolved as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambuto.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we all know, we already had a public hearing on our, what's proposed to be the new ordinance for small cell antennas. And I just want to state for the record, and to Mr. Washington and to everybody from Externet, you knew this was coming. You know, I appreciate your comments speaking in favor of the new ordinance. However, I am not happy that we've got 25 of these before us tonight. I think it's a disgrace. I don't think there was any need of it. I think you were warned ahead of time that this was not needed. And by the time these get out of my committee, the new ordinance will probably be in place. So they were, I gotta say, for the record, I am not happy with this move. And I don't appreciate the many phone calls I had to get because there's 25 public hearings out there when there were no need for any of them. So that's my displeasure, and that's where I stand on this. Now, they're gonna go to my committee, and when they come out, the new ordinance will probably already be in place.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Guanasso, then Councilor Rotundo and Novoselsky.
Mr. President, I have the pleasure of having 8 of these particular proposals in Ward 3. And what I will do is I will state the addresses that are there, and I will list some of the concerns, and that's all you'll hear from me. The first is one we're speaking on right now, 134 Proctor Ave. That's in Ward 3. The next is 277 Proctor Ave. That's in Ward 3. 71 Rose Street. That's in Ward 3. 259 Lanton Road. That's in Ward 3. 203 Squire Road. That's in Ward 3. 2729 Pitcairn Street. That's Ward 3. 2 Washington Street. That's in Ward 3. And the last one is 332 American Legion Highway. And some of the questions that were asked of me is size of equipment and number of attached antennas. How high will it be on the pole? How far will it be from the nearest residence? Will it obstruct anyone's view significantly? What color will it be? What lights and signs, if any, are planned? Who will this 4G device be serving? Will it be serving to speed up on Revere's access to technology? How many of these already in Revere are already planned or in plan? Those are some of the questions that I'm going to be asking in the subcommittee. And I just wanted, for brevity's sake, sharing the concerns that the chair has, that the position that the president has of making the meeting productive. So those are my concerns, and those I'll be addressing for the people of Ward 3 and our community in the subsession.
Thank you, Councilor. And Mr. Milan and your team, if you could take those questions into consideration for the subcommittees, for all of the proposals you have, so that when they come up in zoning, you'll be able to answer those. All right, Councilor Rotundo.
Yes. What the hell just happened?
I lowered your hand. You can speak, Councilor.
Yeah, I wish I could.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
And we can
Yes.
see you too.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, for some reason I can't. Oh, there we go. I can see you guys now. So, sir, the first and foremost question is, who is the company that developed your 5G? Who is the group? Is it ZTE, Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, or Huawei?
Mr. Brand, I'm sorry, Mr. Washington, would you like to care to speak? Mr.
Point
Malone?
of information. Did he say 4G or 5G?
He
Five.
said 4G.
It's 4G though, George.
George, it's 4G, not
It's not
5G.
a 5G.
It's 4.
4G.
Thank you very much. Excuse me for my error. So if it's a 4G, I'll ask my questions within the subcommittee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
thank you, Mr. President. Of course, we're not happy with this. You know, it's kind of being shoved down our throats. And I know there's already a bunch of cell towers on some poles already from last year. And two things I would like to see. Actually, yeah, there are two things and then a comment. I'd like to see the contracts that they have from Verizon and National Grid, giving them the authority to put them on these poles. For each item, for each pole. Now, we want to make sure that everything's above board on their part. I know it's not above board on our part. I know the FCC is helping them shove it down our throats. But I'm just tired of our cities starting to look like a porcupine city with all these things sticking up all over the place. And the neighbors not being very happy. I've gotten many phone calls about these and, you know, I'm just not going to support this, you know, whether they're allowed to do it, whether we approve it or not. If it came down to a vote, I would vote against it and I would leave it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sereno, then Councilor Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say ditto to what all of my colleagues before me have said. You know, I'm not a health expert, but given that there's not enough data to support whether or not these are hazardous, I wouldn't feel comfortable with approving the one that's in my ward, specifically because you really can't see this, I know, but I have one proposed one in my ward, but it's within 3 streets of three other cell antennas that you guys are proposing. And to me, that seems like a very high concentration where there are a lot of residents on those 3 streets. My other thing is, I know you guys don't know because we haven't met yet, but I've been on a kind of a crusade with these double poles. And if you add another thing to our utility poles, in the event that, you know, a car hits and damages one of these poles, particularly on Squire Road or Charger Street, you know, are you going to come right out and fix your equipment and get it to a new pole, or are we going to be stuck looking at the antenna for a year on a broken pole before you can get out to repair it? So I'm personally hesitant to adding anything else to our utility poles, given my issue with the double poles as it is. But as I said, ditto to the concerns of all my other councilors. I think it's a real slap in the face that you brought 25 in the middle of a pandemic. And you were working, you knew about the ordinance because you spoke on it. So you knew changes were going to be happening. And I just think you're really trying to take advantage of a gateway city. I wonder if you guys have any small cell antennas in front of your homes. I'm sure you wouldn't want one in front of your home. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And Councilor Visconti, we also have a couple of councils wishing to ask some.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question to Mr. Washington or Mr. Milan, how is the selection process done for these poles in determining where these antennas go? Who does that done? Can you elaborate on that?
The selection is done in coordination with our client customer,
through radio frequency RF engineers. They design a contour that meets the capacity needs of our client customers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council Visconti, good?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, so Council Rotundo had a question. Do you want me to ask, or do you want to ask that, Council Rotundo?
I'd like to ask if I could.
Sure. go ahead.
Mr. Washington or Mr. Milan, could you tell me who is the group that is actually making this 4G product? Is it Hiwa or is it Ericsson? Who is it?
And I'm going to have to defer because I don't know what radios are being used. 4G radios are being used. And I would also, Keenan Brennan is also with our project. If he has an understanding of what radio equipment is being used.
I would tell you I have great concern if it's Hiwa due to its actual explicit issue regarding the theft of technology, and more importantly, the concern that's revolving around that at a national level. There's been some talk about it. I was reading a foreign policy magazine where there is concern both in Europe as well as here that that company is backdooring technology theft and other things, and that would be a great concern.
Mr. Britton, do you have that question?
I do. Yeah, it's Ericsson is the provider of the equipment, and the equipment is detailed.
Are they the developer of the equipment? That's the question.
They are the manufacturer of the equipment.
They are. And who's
Yes.
and who maintains the server? Who's the one that maintains the upkeep of the product? Is it them themselves, or is it another outsourced company?
That would be up to Extenet to how they want to handle that.
I want to know that before we sign off on anything.
So if we can have, there's obviously a number of questions. If we can have these answered at our zoning subcommittee, it would be very helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council Novoselsky, follow-up question? And then maybe I can speak for a second.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Just a clarification. These 25 are not going to be under the rules of the new ordinance, if I'm correct.
Right.
Correct.
And second of all, I understand they have 25 more coming in later that will be under the new ordinance. So they're just killing us, and not happy with it at all. Thank you.
And okay. So gentlemen, if you could, obviously this is going to be a public hearing on 25. So the companies that are in front of us, if you could just take these questions, I'm just going to ask on all of them. They're going to be the same. We're not going to ask the same questions on every proposal. If you could answer these questions at the zoning subcommittee, we'd really appreciate it. I wanted to state for the record, I believe 5 of these are in Ward 4, 1 being directly, in my house right now, I can throw a stick and hit it from my house. So I'm obviously not an advocate for it. I'm pretty satisfied with my cellular service as it is. But just wanted to make sure that you knew that I have a number of residents that no one has spoken in favor of them. They've all been adversarial of them, and a majority of them were upset with the way they look. So I just wanted to make it clear that a lot of this wasn't necessarily the help. It was more of the aesthetics of what it's doing to the values of their homes. So if we can take that into consideration, I've also asked in the past if you can bring a model to the council chambers or to the meeting and show us what they'll look like. We'd appreciate that. So we're going to close this first one, and we're going to refer that to zoning. All in favor? Refer to zoning?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 6, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting to install a small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 23 VFW Parkway.
Mr. President, point of information.
Sir.
If we're going to put this in committee, could we also put them in public safety as well until we get that other component?
We can, Councilor Zambudo can offer that out, correct? To public safety?
If he wishes.
Yep. So we can go to zoning, and then if he needs to put it into public safety as well, that'd be fine.
Yeah, let's just get them in zoning for starters, and you know, are we going to have to go through each one of these hearings?
Yes, we do. They're a public hearing.
Disgraceful. Disgraceful.
So let's bear with it. It's part of the process. Mr. Milan, I would assume that, do you want to speak on this, or do you want to just, is it the same comments you're going to have for each one?
The same comments for each one.
So we're going to open this up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none. Any opponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? And for the record, councilors have stated that they're all in opposition, and they've received numerous oppositions from their constituents on all of these proposals. Closing that side of the hearing. Any councilors wishing to speak? Close that side of the hearing. We're going to refer to zoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Supported.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting for requesting permission to install a small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 70 Highland Ave.
Okay, open this up to any proponents, understanding that Mr. Milan and his team obviously are speaking on behalf of it. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Opponents, any opponents wishing to speak? Again, hearing and seeing none in the audience, we have received numerous opponents on behalf of our constituents and the councilors. We're going to put that on the record. And any councilors, we're going to close the opponent side. Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Morbido.
Quick question to Mr. Milan, or can these 4Gs, are they upgradable? Can they be upgraded to 5Gs in the future?
Mr. Milan, or any of your parties wish to speak?
And I'm not a radio frequency engineer. I believe they can be, but I'd like to defer that to a future hearing where we'll bring a radio frequency engineer in to explain if that's done, how it can be done. And what
Okay, can you get me an answer by subcommittee?
We can, yes, we'll have a radio frequency engineer there and for the subcommittee meeting.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the meeting, and we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 8, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission from the Revere City Council to install a small cell wireless antenna and equipment on an existing utility pole at 516 Beach Street.
Okay, being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to proponents. Understanding that Mr. Milan and his team are proponents, and we've heard their comments for the record. Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Hearing and seeing none, we have the councilors wishing to speak. I know the councilors have already stated their opposition to these small cell additions. Add that to the record, and we'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 9, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting from the City Council to install a small cell wireless equipment and antenna on existing utility pole at 60 Florence Avenue.
Okay, this being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to any proponents. For the record, I assume Mr. Milan and his team are proponents. So hearing and seeing no other proponents, we're going to close that side of the hearing. The opponents, the audience, hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And councilors wishing to speak. For the record, we're going to add that the councilors were not in favor, and they've received many concerns from the constituents. We're going to close that side of the hearing, and we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Aye.
Get good at this.
Calendar item number 10, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 65 Thornton Street.
Okay, we're going to open this up to proponents. On the record is Mr. Milan and his team as proponents. Any other? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? The audience hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And councilors wishing to speak? Councilors, for the record, we're going to add you as not in favor. And we're going to move this to, refer this to zoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 11, hearing called is ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 19 Beach Street.
Okay, We're going to open this up to the proponents, public hearing. The proponents, we have the Mr. Milan and his team as proponents. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Any opponents in the audience wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to open it up to councilors. Councilors, councilors okay with on the record as not being in favor?
Not being in favor,
Pardon me?
not being in favor, no.
Not in
This is
favor,
my
correct.
ward, not being in favor.
We'll close that side of the hearing, and we're going to ask to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 12, hearing called as ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 56 Kilburn Street.
Okay. So, and this is a public hearing. We're going to open this up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we do have the team, Mr. Milan, who are in favor. And then we're going to, any other proponents wishing to speak? Seeing none, close that side. Any opponents wishing to speak? The opponents, we have the councils wishing to speak. Councils not in favor of 56 Kilburn. I am a direct abutter. I'm on the record as a not in favor, as well as fellow councils. Council Novoselsky wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a request for the zoning subcommittee, if they could provide a list of all the existing cell towers that they have in the city right now for the next meeting.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, are you taking these questions? Are you right? Are you keeping them down for the zoning subcommittee? The list of questions?
Yes, I received an email, which I forwarded to Councilor Guanasso, that has those same questions on it that I received from a resident.
Okay. Thank you. Any other councils wishing to speak? Seeing none, we're going to close that side of, oh, Council McKenna.
I want to know if there's thank you, Mr. President. I just want to know if there's a limit that a company can have a certain amount of cell towers in a city. And Ashley, if you could find that out. Is
That
there?
would probably be a good question from Mr. Stringy or our city solicitor, I would imagine, correct?
The other thing I would like to ask Mr. Milan is how much money do you get from putting these cell towers up on a pole?
Mr. Milan?
That's a question I cannot answer. I'd refer to Mr. Washington on that.
That's an issue of a private contract between us and our client customers, and we typically don't release that information to the public.
I'm sure with 50 applications and 50 cell towers going up in a city, I'm sure you get a lot of money.
Pretty sure it's a business. I don't know if anyone does it for the goodness of, out of the goodness of their heart. You can't hold that against you. All right. We're going to close that side of the hearing. We're going to refer to the zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
So ordered. You were at 56 Kilburn. Right?
We did Kilburn, didn't we?
Right. Madam
Yeah.
Clerk? She's on mute. Madam Clerk?
You're on mute, Ashley.
Excuse me. Calendar item number 13, hearing called as ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 79 Pleasant Street.
Okay. We have any proponents wishing to speak? We know Mr. Milan and his team are in favor. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Oh, we have an attendee. Well, the hand is not, okay, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Closing that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? And we have a person in the audience wishing to speak. Mr. Lampadecchio.
Rebecca, 43 Tapley Avenue. Sorry, I was trying to get in on the last question that McKenna had asked. Does the city make any money off of these towers, or do we just collect like a permit fee, or do we get any residual income off of this? I mean,
So
what's that
if
for-
I can answer that question, I believe part of the ordinance is to be able to receive a permitting fee. I don't know if they were before, if there was some sort of an agreement, but I believe part of the ordinance there is. Correct me if I'm wrong.
would it be possible to rewrite the ordinance so that we get some constant flow of revenue from that?
Like I mentioned, I'm fairly certain that there is a fee paid to the city, correct? Councilor
Point of
Rotundo?
information.
I don't think we own the polls.
Point of information.
Yeah.
We have entered into agreements in the past, the voluntary agreements. There are strict rules that govern these things, and I'm sure that our city solicitor and all the people involved did what they could for the city.
Council Powers?
Point of information, I would suggest that any fees that are paid, for the most part, and I'm not saying that there aren't some minimal fees paid to the city, but I would say that for the most part, those fees are paid to Verizon, the owner of the pole. That's my understanding anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't believe we get any money from any of I don't remember seeing it in the past from the other cell towers that they put up. But the new ordinance shows $500 for a single application up to 5, and then $100 for each additional location. So that's for the future. That's not for this group.
Yeah,
So-
as mentioned, I believe there was a small reimbursement built into it.
Right, so, and, you know, when it comes to committee, I would want to increase those. So, I'll ought to think about that. Thank you.
It could be a good addition, Okay. So hearing and seeing any.
Councilor Keith.
Councilor Rotundo, sorry.
Thank you. So there is no fee that we pay other than that from the building department, number one. Number two, we cannot charge this company for any fees. However, what Councilor Novoselsky had said about a $500 fee for an applicant is real small dollars as far as I'm concerned. I would like to revisit that payment scale in the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so in hearing and seeing any other opponents except for the councilors on the record as opponents, we'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 14, hearing called as ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 13 Cambridge Street.
Okay. We'll open this up to any proponents on the record. We have Mr. Milan and his group as proponents. Well, any other proponents wishing to speak? We'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we have myself. This is in my ward. I, of course, as mentioned, the councilors are not in favor. I just want to go on the record as not in favor. And we'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 15, hearing called as ordered on the application of Corey Milan Network Building and Consulting, requesting permission to install small cell wireless equipment on an existing utility pole at 7 Bayview Street.
Okay, there's a public hearing. We're going to open up to any proponents. Council Novoselsky, your hand is raised. You'll be waiting for the council side, correct?
Actually, I was gonna mention that for the rest of these hearings, can we waive the reading and just mention the street name?
Madam
They all
Clerk,
say the same thing.
Madam Clerk, you can do that? Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Counselor. You're halfway there, not even. All right, so any proponents wishing to speak? We have the Mr. Milan and his group as in favor. Close that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? Any opponents wishing to speak? And the councilors are all wishing to go on the record as not in favor. And we'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 16, 13 Hancock Street.
Okay. There's a public hearing. We're going to open it up to any proponents wishing to speak. Hearing and seeing none, we do have the Mr. Milan and his group as on the record as in favor. And then we're going to close hearing and seeing no others. We're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none in the audience, we open this up to the council. Again, this is in my ward. I wish to be on the record as not in favor, and I believe the rest of the council does as well. Close that hearing and seeing no others. We'll close that side of the hearing. We'll refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed? Ordered.
Calendar item number 17, 277 Proctor Avenue.
Okay, being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to any proponents wishing to speak. Hearing and seeing none on the record, we have Mr. Milan and his group as being in favor. And hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to close that side of the hearing. We'll refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed? So ordered. My dog's hiding under the table now.
Calendar item number 18, 71 Rose Street.
Okay. In a public hearing, we're going to open this up to any proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? We have the Mr. Milan and his group as on the record as in favor. So hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none in the audience. I know the councils wish to be on record as not in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer that to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
So ordered.
Calendar item number 19, 321 Charger Street.
Okay. This being a public hearing, we're wishing to open it up to any proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? I see Councilor Sereno's hand is up. You wish to speak as a proponent or you wish to speak at the end?
No, speak at the end with
Okay.
the councilors.
So as proponents, Mr. Milan and his group are listed as proponents. Hearing and seeing others, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? None in the audience. Hearing and seeing none, we'll open it up to councils. Councilor Sereno.
Mr. President, this is the only one that's in my ward. It's down by Greater Boston Fitness. And as for reasons previously stated, I just want to go on record as totally opposed.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councils wishing to speak? And the council wishes to be on the record as not in favor. We'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 20 Leechmere Street.
I thought I flipped a page. I was getting excited. I thought we were on 25. All right. This is a public hearing. We'll open it up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? We have Mr. Milan and his group as being on the record as in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. We'll open up the hearing to any opponents. Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing no others, the council wishes to go on record as not in favor. Okay, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
So ordered. Oh, we got a late attendee. We'll go on the next one.
Calendar item number 21, 51 Shaman Street.
51 Shaman Street. Okay, this being a public hearing, we're going to open up to proponents and opponents.
President.
Yes.
Mr. President, Councilor Powers here. For the record, I am opposed to that one on Shaman Street, a second one on Shaman Street, 2 on Sagamore Street, and 1 on American Legion Highway, all in Ward 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Appreciate that. We're going to just, we're going to continue on with the proponent side of this. Any proponents? Mr. Tucker, are you a proponent or are you listed as an opponent? We're going to unmute you. Oh, there you go.
Opponent.
Opponent. All right, we're gonna close the side of any other proponents. We know Mr. Milan and his group are in favor. We're gonna close that side of the hearing. We're gonna open up to opponents. Councilor Powers stated for the record he was not in favor. And Mr. Tucker, you wish to speak. Name and address for the record.
Michael Tucker, 9 Ellerton Street, Revere, Mass. I just got on, unfortunately. I'm opposed to all of these. I'll voice my concerns at the subcommittee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker is on the record as not in favor. Well, hearing and seeing any others? I know the councils wish to be on record as not in favor. We'll close that side of the hearing. We'll refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 22, 259 Lantern Road.
Okay, being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? Mr. Milan and his group are on the record as in favor. And we're going to, hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Open it up to any opponents wishing to speak. The council wishes to go on the record as not in favor. Well, hearing and seeing no others, we'll close that side of the hearing. And with that being said, we'll refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 23, 203 Squire Road.
Thank you. Being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? No, hearing and seeing none. We do have Mr. Milan and his group as being on the record as in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we'll close that side of the hearing. We're going to open it up to any opponents wishing to speak. Hearing and seeing no others, we have the councils wishing to go on record as not in favor. Seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. At this point, we're going to refer to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 24, 37 Sagamore Street.
Okay, being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to any proponents in the audience wishing to speak. Hearing and seeing none, we do have Mr. Milan and his group wanting to be on the record as in favor. With that being said, we'll close that side of the hearing. We'll open up to any opponents. The audience hearing, we have Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker? Oh, his hand went up. Okay, so any
I'm
council?
opposed to all of them.
Yep, Mr. Tucker, we got you. Thank you very much. Michael Tucker wishing to be on the record as opposed. And we have a panelist wishing to speak. We have Councilor Serino.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick question to Mr. Milan, through you to Mr. Milan. Mr. Milan, are there any other communities that you have this many pending applications before their legislative bodies? And if so, could you just tell us what communities they are?
We're doing work in the greater Boston area and a lot of different areas. The breadth of that, I'd like to send over to Mr. Washington.
Mr. Washington?
And actually, I think Keenan Brennan, I know that we have surrounding communities that have a substantial number of sites or locations. I believe that there's this, and I don't have the exact number, but we do have substantial number in Lynn. And I would, I'm not sure of other locations as well.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan, did you wish to speak on that? No?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just, another gateway city. So thank you.
Right. Good point. Thank you, Council Serino. Okay, so the council wishes to go on the record as not in favor. We'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
So ordered. Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 25, 27-29 Pitcairn Street.
Okay, being a public hearing, we open up to any proponents. Any proponents in the audience, hearing and seeing none. I know Mr. Milan and his group wish to be on the record as in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. Open it up to opponents, the opponents in the audience. Hearing and seeing none. I know the councils wish to go on the record as not in favor. We'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer that to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, 2 Washington Street.
Okay, we're going to open this up as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to go on the record as a proponent? Any proponents? Hearing and seeing none. We have Mr. Milan, who wishes to be on the record with his group as in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? I'll remind that this is in Ward 4. I wish to go on the record as not in favor, as well as fellow councils wish to go on record as not in favor. Hearing and seeing no others, we're going to close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 27, 102 Kimball Ave.
Okay, we're going to open this up. It's a public hearing. Open it up to proponents. Any proponents in the audience wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Milan and his group would like to go on the record as in favor. Any others? We're going to close that side of the hearing. We're going to open up to opponents. Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none. Councilors wishing to go on the record. The council wishes to go on the record as not in favor. And we'll close that side of the hearing. For this is zoning subcommittee, all in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 28, 24 Shaman Street.
Okay, being a public hearing, we're going to open this up to proponents. Any proponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none. We have the Mr. Milan and his group wishing to go on the record as in favor. Any others wishing to speak? Nope. We'll close that side of the hearing. We're open up to opponents. Any opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none. We have the councilors all wishing to go on the record as not in favor. Close that side of the hearing, and we're going to refer that to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 29, 332 American Legion Highway.
Okay, in a public hearing, we're going to open that up to any proponents wishing to speak. Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Milan and his group wish to go on the record as in favor. We're going to close that side of the hearing. Any opponents, we're going to open it up. Council McKenna?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to go on to the record. I have 4 in my ward. I would like to go on the record that I oppose all 4. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have attendee in the audience wishing to speak as an opponent, Mr. Tucker.
Like to go on the record for all 29 that I'm
25.
opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker wishes to go on the record for all 25 as opposed. Any other opponents wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close. Oh, we have a McKenna, you already spoke. Okay, we'll close that side of the hearing. And we're going to refer this to zoning subcommittee. All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Supported. I think that our duty is done on those, correct, Mr. Council?
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Council Novoselsky.
Thank you. Just another request for the zoning subcommittee. When they come in, if they can bring in an overall citywide map showing the locations on this map of where these 25 are going.
Mr. Milan, thank you. And we understand you have a job to do.
And make sure that you bring in actually who is the people that are going to maintain the server and things of that nature. I'm sure your engineer will have that information.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And before we let you go, I just want to remind you, and I know Councilor Zambudo is going to have a lengthy zoning subcommittee. If we can just get those questions to Mr. Milan and his group in advance, so he can prepare himself to answer the questions, so that we have a more expedited meeting in Councilor Zambudo's subcommittee. All right, thank you. Moving on.
Calendar item number 30, communication from the mayor relative to a resolution for the fats, oils, and grease control program and capacity management operations and maintenance equipment procurement loan order.
So has everyone seen the communication? Madam Clerk, do we have it in front of us, correct?
Yes, this was, it was just an omission. Usually with the loan orders for the MWRA, there's the loan order itself. And then in addition to the resolution, we missed the vote on the resolution. So this is just taking that vote, that's all.
So we already voted on this. It's more of a formality.
Yes, the loan order was already approved by
correct.
the city council. This is just the resolution.
Correct. So this is going to go to a roll call vote.
Shall the city council approve the resolution relative to the fats, oils, and grease control program and capacity management operations and maintenance procurement loan order? Councilor Janino? Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna? I'm sorry. Councilor Guanasso, yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Keefe.
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved. Next up is the Ways and Means Subcommittee report.
Council Powers.
Mr. President, earlier this afternoon, 4 p.m., we had a meeting of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. There were 4 items on the agenda, all which I might add were very good items, very positive, very credible, and I want to thank my colleagues for submitting those items. Madam Clerk, would you like to read the items just for the record?
Yes. First council order is 20-027. This was a motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor look into the feasibility of donating $50,000 to the Warming Center of Malden.
Madam Clerk, members of the council, this was referred to the mayor, also asking him to advise the council due to the fact that these are difficult financial times, when and if that money could be available, and secondly, if in fact we might have a solution right within the city to address that particular problem. Madam Clerk?
Mr. President,
Council Rotundo.
when was that motion? That was in what, 2019?
That was, you would put that
Was that
motion
the
in
December,
this
which
year.
date was it?
That motion was made this year.
If
Thank
you
you.
remember, that was a motion you put in, yeah.
Because I had put one in 2018, 2019, and I think I even put one in November of this year as well.
Yeah.
This was this year's motion.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, 20061.
What was the disposition of that first motion?
You wish to place it on file, Council Powers?
Yeah, we placed it on file. We also requested that a notice or a letter or comment be sent to the mayor with regard to making the city council available, aware of if and when that money would be available, and also if there was a way that this could be handled within the city of Revere and one of our own buildings.
Thank you. All in favor of placing on file? Aye. In favor? So ordered.
Calendar item number 32, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the city of Revere look into the feasibility of covering the cost of Narcan with any pharmacy in Revere under the following circumstance. If a patron is requesting Narcan to immediately resuscitate someone who has overdosed.
Madam Clerk, there was a suggestion made that the owners of the pharmacies, the major pharmacies, Walgreens, CVS, all of those, have a meeting scheduled for them to determine basically what their participation would be and how this would work within the parameters of their organization.
And that was going to be ordered. All
I
in
think
favor?
that was going to, yeah.
That's gonna remain in committee.
Remaining committee until, we heard back from these people.
Okay.
Council President,
Mr. Council Rotundo.
through you to Council Powers, if we could send a letter to, Nurse Donovan from the Board of Health.
Carol Donovan, yes.
Advise her of this as well, or if we could have that communication. I can also send her an email. But
Yeah.
I think it would be worthy of doing that, because at the end of the day, what it is just the pharmacy or the pharmacist saying that they will write the order. It then becomes an issue of who's going to pay for it. I'm going to send an email to the mayor, to her, and I'll send one to you as well. Thank you.
As a point of information, what we discussed was the fact that if we got them to agree to it, how we would pay for it, and as far as if we would pay for X amount of dosage per month and so forth and so on. There's just some more details needed. That's all. Everybody thinks it's a great idea, but there's some details that need to be worked out.
Sure, thank you.
This will stay in committee, Council Powers, and continue to be discussed?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Voted.
Calendar item number 33, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the mayor be requested to investigate the feasibility of reducing water and sewer bills by 5% for all ratepayers. Further, that the city council be provided with a financial analysis of the impact of a water and sewer bill reduction would have on the city.
Council Powers, what was the will of the committee?
First of all, this is a great motion. I think there are a lot of people out there now, particularly during these times when they had their children home from school. There's an excess use of water. It's very difficult. So this was, what we did with this, we sent this to the mayor, asking him to advise the city council as to, what this would cost money-wise, and if we would have the monies available to do it. And that's just what happened with this. And I think it's a great motion on Councilor McKenna's part.
Thank you.
It gives us the opportunity to offer something out there to younger couples, middle-aged that are still working, and we're doing something for the senior citizens, and we do something for the people that they get a discount on their irrigation for their water they use. And I believe there's one other one that I don't have in front of me. But again, it's something that we should be offering these people, because during these times, they're feeling the pinch severely. And I think it's up to us and the administration to work to address this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, this will stay in your committee as well, or is this going to be placed on file?
This will be placed on file.
Okay, all in favor, placed on file?
I have,
Council.
I'm sorry, but I have the notes from the subcommittee meeting that this received a favorable recommendation from the committee.
Okay,
On a
So
roll call.
correct.
so ordered.
However, we don't have the, we don't have the monies right now to, adjust this.
Well, this is
I'd love
obviously
to.
going to be reviewed by the mayor's office and.
Mayor and Mr. Viscay and the Water and Sewer Department, and, let's get some figures and some recommendations.
I'm sorry, but as a point of information, the motion requests the feasibility, the mayor to look into the feasibility. I think we did in fact pass
We
this
voted on.
to go. So that was voted favorably.
Yep,
Yes.
voted, motion to approve.
The end result is going to be the same when the
Right.
mayor gets it and comes back.
I get it. Yeah. Thank you.
So motion to approve.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordered.
Aye.
Aye.
Calendar item number 34, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the city of Revere look into the feasibility of restructuring all loans.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe from Mr. Viscay's comments this evening earlier here that this is something that they are looking at right now. He did indicate to me that there would be approximately, could be approximately $40,000 per year saved. There is a restriction on how far back they can go. I think it's as a 10-year restriction or something like that. And we have to show from what he said, a $1 advantage to the city doing this. So he's looking into that now. And hopefully, I had suggested to him that he get back to us certainly, within a couple of months, because I understand there's not too much being done now other than working on the budget with the pandemic, et cetera. And Mr. Viscay is a very honorable person, and I'm sure he will. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And what's the will of your subcommittee to approve?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilor Powers, for your report.
Next up is the zoning subcommittee report.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, the zoning subcommittee met this evening with only one item on the agenda, unlike the next zoning subcommittee, which will have 25 items on the agenda. If I seem a little upset with that, I am. However, the reason we met this evening was for to approve a zoning ordinance for the city of Revere relative to brew pubs, which was voted out unanimously in favor to the full city council. And I would ask for a roll call vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Ordered on a second reading, Counselor? It's an ordinance, so you have to go through those steps.
Right.
Ordered on a second reading? Ordered on a third and final reading? Roll call for engrossment and ordainment.
Shall the city council approve an amendment to the zoning ordinances of the city of Revere relative to brew pubs? Counselor Janino? Yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Keith?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance is engrossed and ordained. Next up is the appointment subcommittee report.
Councilor Ganasso.
Mr. President, earlier this afternoon, the appointment subcommittee met, and we had 6 applications for appointments to the drain layer position. First one was Geologic Earth Exploration, Inc. as a licensed drain layer. Second was Rapid Flow as a licensed drain layer. Third was J. Marchese as a licensed drain layer. Next was MT Mayo Corporation as a licensed drain layer. Communication from the mayor, appointment of Tufts Construction as a licensed drain layer. And finally, appointment to as a licensed drain layer, WL French Company. If there's no objections from the council of the whole, I ask that we take them and vote on these all as one, as the report came out of the appointment subcommittee favorable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And as the council wishes to vote on all these at once?
Yes, please.
Yes. Be a roll call or just all in favor, Council Melnick?
All in favor, all opposed.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 42, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the city council requests the state pension system to divest from China.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. It's quite clear now that during this scourge, the coronavirus, that in December and even in November, the Chinese Communist Party did not allow domestic, shall I say, flights or transportation within China, basically shut down the country, but allowed international flights, which then, as we all know, which has been reported, ABC, NBC, CBS, infected the world. At this point, there are well over 30 countries that are now asking for monetary damages from China. And at this point, considering that we have tens of thousands of people that have died in America because of this, I can't see why we would continue to finance that country in any manner, shape, or form. And at this point, if there's any way that we can divest from them, period, the sooner the better. Quite frankly, it is beyond astonishing when you read what took place, how they manipulated the WHO, in which they said, and I quote, that there was no human-to-human transmission of this virus. It is virtually disgusting that could ever take place, that a body would ever allow that to happen, and it did. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's a great motion. Of course, I don't think anybody would argue that we don't want anything to do with China at this point. They've caused, I don't know, 184 countries to suffer through this pandemic just by negligence or by whatever it was, incompetence. But if we can divest from China in any way, I'm all for it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, where do we stand as far as asking the state retirement board of PERAC to divest? You know, we're a small, you know, a peanut in a big crop, and I don't know where our say of one, you know, of one city would have any authority or comments for the state retirement board to divest. I don't know, Revere is just Revere. And, you know, where would it go after that? You know, we don't even know what things are divested into as far as the state is concerned. And I would, you know, I would like to see a list of that.
Sure.
You know, and see where, you know, what kind of potency we would have, you know, to do something like that.
Mr. President, through you,
Rotundo.
This was very much what was done back in the days of apartheid South Africa. In this case, my understanding, it's indexing economics in which we invest in different types of products. And remember, it's just one voice. Like you said, Counselor, and I totally agree with you. But if it takes one voice to get the rest of this state to do it, then let's be the first.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Ganasso.
Well, as I watch the nightly news, Mr. President, and I'm sure all my colleagues do, I see continually the United States investing in China by terms of getting masks from them, getting PET information from them, getting all supplies from China. We had the Kraft group go over and get a plane load of goods from China. Once we got to send a message out that they've done harm to our country and we have to stop doing business with them. Or can we tolerate not doing business with them? I don't know if we can handle the situation. I'm very suspect about why we have to lean on them for all these goods. So when we divest, and I think, George, you're right. I'm finally going to agree with you. I think the very smallest thing we can do to show that we are upset, it starts someplace, and it might as well start here. I think it's a good motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very good.
Counselor. Any other councilors wishing to speak? So if I could, Counselor Morito.
So is your motion asking the city not to divest, meaning not to purchase anything from made in China?
No.
Personally, if we could do that where possible, sure. I mean, at this point where Councilor Granasso had pointed out the use of PPE, if you take a look at what's been done, it's been spoken throughout various media outlets. At this point, we are no longer trying to focus on using China for PPE. One, because of the quality of the PPE, and two, for the very issue that Arthur had spoken about. So at the very level, at the very lowest level, if we could do that, fine. If not, I understand. You know, this is some things that you can't do overnight. Remember, 80% of our medications, 80% of our medications come from China. If you remember, in the middle of this, they threatened to stop it. That means they threatened to kill people, innocent people. Remember that. That's what that amounts to. If you're septic or if you're in need of antibiotics and someone says, we're not going to give it to you, chances are you're going to die. So hyperbole or not, that's something that was said. So at the very level of the community, yes, if we can not buy anything from China and get away with it and buy it from Mexico or buy it from Canada, so be it. But
well, we should all just take off our clothes right now because probably all our clothes is made in China right now. So we should all just get naked. But
Mine's made in Italy.
That was a joke. But anyways,
councilors.
my thoughts.
Understood. Just everyone relax.
But no, I think all our office supplies that we order as a city, I think there's just so much made in China. And we were just talking about saving money as a city and cutting costs. The reason why people order from China is because everything's so less expensive. Than if
And
it's
that's true. And I don't support slave labor. I don't support them basically using Uyghurs as that same.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't believe
from their
support.
horrific human rights issues.
Mhm.
So if you want me to take off my shirt right now, not to
Go
support
for it,
China,
George.
not
The
only would that
audience
make you
wants
drop
it.
dead,
You might
but
get
at the
some
very
votes.
least, at
You
the
might
very
get some
least,
votes.
you know, we can start with not buying one of these. If we can buy something from Mexico instead of from China, then let's do it.
All right. Well,
And I'll send you all the shirt, proposals later.
Let's all get back to all get back to the spirit of the motion. And if Council Novoselsky, did you wish to speak? We'll close this up here.
The only thing, Mr. President, with all due respect to my councilors, we're talking over each other.
Right.
You said it before, you want to call people as they go. And here you have two councilors corresponding with each other, and one talking over the other one. I think it's totally ridiculous. Stick to the point, let them finish their point instead of fighting with them. Thank you.
Thank you. And by all means, I appreciate the support, Council Novoselsky. I know Council Morbido and Rotundo mean no disrespect. And I understand they get a little excited, especially when it talks about taking shirts off. So we're going to get back to the motion. If I can comment, and then we can offer this to either committee or we can vote on it right now. I agree. I don't know enough about the financial world and what it would mean to the pension system or what it would mean to the economy or what's even invested in China. But unrealizing, we all support many different countries in different ways with what we, like Councilor Morbido said, with what we purchase and how we go about things. The second that we have to spend more money on a TV, we freak out. And then we buy the cheapest one we can buy for, who knows where it was made. So, I mean, I don't want to be this person that says, oh, let's divest from China, but then the next day you see me at the store buying Chinese goods, because it's probably what's going to happen. And I think that we'd all be doing the same thing, all 11 of us. I certainly support American made. I certainly want to support local business, but I don't know if I'm ready to make this global statement when I'm probably going to contradict myself tomorrow.
Mr. President, if we were able to divest from South Africa because of what they did versus the tens of thousands of people that have died in America, I'd like to vote this up tonight, and I'd like it to go to the state board and let them
President,
decide.
point of order.
Sure.
Point of order, Mr. President. Here we go again. You're saying your piece and you're being interrupted again. Totally out of line.
Understood. Yeah. So that was my piece. I just don't want to contradict myself in the sense that, I agree, and I will do my best to support and buy from the United States and do my best. But, sometimes it doesn't always work out when you're going with your wallet, and we all know that, and that's just being honest. Okay. But if the will of the council is to vote on it, I'm more than happy to do that, and we'll leave it up to everyone else. So motion, we can do a roll call vote. Council Morbido. Let me just.
Can I just say one thing we have to think about? All the school orders, computers, everything they order, a lot of it, iPads, computers, they're made in China. So what route do we go from there? The budget is going to be astronomical. Don't get me wrong. If we,
Mr. President, point of order.
Hang on, Councilor Gino has one. Okay, Councilor Gino. I can see your hand, so just let me call on you before you speak.
The motion that we're voting on says the pension system to divest from China. It has nothing about the budget, nothing about.
That's right.
So I think we should just focus on the exact wording.
Good point.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councilor Zambudo, did you wish to speak?
No, well, now that Councilor Janino said what I was going to say, we're voting on one motion, the pension system. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are, but unfortunately the topic started to go outward in taking shirts off. So unfortunately we went beyond that. So motion, all in favor, we're going to go roll call here. Madam Clerk.
And just to confirm the language of the motion, you wanted this to come, Councilor Rotundo, you wanted this to come from the city council, not that the mayor be requested to send the letter? You want the city council send the letter?
I would, because sure, let's ask the mayor because he is the leader of the community. Sure. That's more appropriate.
Thank you for that.
On the motion, Councilor Janino?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now, yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky? Counselor Novoselsky?
Present.
You broke up, I'm sorry.
Present.
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 Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Keith?
Yes.
Yes,
Council
the
President.
motion has been approved.
Can we take this up under suspension of rules for reconsideration? Hope it does not prevail.
Reconsideration. Hope that
And hope
does
that
not
it does not.
prevail. In favor?
No.
Council Novoselsky is on the record as no. Everyone else in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
In favor, ayes have it.
That was
Calendar item
painful.
number 43, motion presented by Councilor Keith that the mayor request inspectional services to provide the city council with an update on the Safe Housing Task Force with health issues directly related to overcrowded housing. The city should amplify inspections to provide the ability to identify rooming houses and those that have illegal dwellings and additions.
Okay, before I speak, any councils wishing to speak?
Present.
Council Guanasso and then Council Novoselsky.
President Keith.
You
this
see my hand?
Great motion. I think it's about time that we get back to this task force because I can speak namely for a couple of units in my ward, namely one on Temple Street. With the efforts of the task force, what they did to rehab a dilapidated, rundown home that was like, you wouldn't believe the conditions that were there. And this force went in and went through all the routines. They went to the courts. They went everywhere. It takes months and months to get this implemented. But once it was done, you should see the final product that's there today. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of our city for the effort that they did in making such a thing happen. Now, I don't know in this pandemic how doable it is right now, but I think it's something we should certainly consider because we have a lot of properties in our community that are not properly attended to, whether it be absentee landlords or whatever it may be. But I think this motion is a great motion. And I think that once we place our focus of attention on these properties, you'll make the whole neighborhood happy, as they did on Temple Street. So I think it's a great motion, Councilor.
Thank you. And we have quite a few councils wishing to speak. So we're going to go Council Novoselsky, then Council Rotundo, Zambuto, Sereno, and McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the outstanding motion. I agree with it. This, the task force has done a great job over the years, but they have had some negative issues, and mostly on abandoned buildings. You know, I have a couple in my neighborhood that have been abandoned for 8 years, and they've had little support and good things happen on these particular locations. And they did a great job with Carabetta's property and getting them to spend millions of dollars to upgrade the elevators. But some of these buildings, and I use Clark Road, 50 Clark Road has been boarded up. Kids go in there and squatters and use drugs. We've had cops down there many, many times. And I think that included in this motion should be abandoned properties. So if you could, you can adjust that motion to include those, I'd appreciate it.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I suggest that we speak to the city solicitor because I'm not so sure as to if we do identify what would be the outcome on that particular issue, considering that we're not allowed to displace people at this point. I can tell you that we have multiple properties that have people living, and I hate to say it, one apartment, literally between 12, sometimes I've seen as high as 18, and that's not hyperbole. And that's a scary thing in a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment. And, sometimes you've got families living in one room. That's a scary thing.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a great motion. My biggest fear is that with the reduction in workforce coming, I'm hoping this department doesn't get hit, but I think we have to expect that all departments are going to get hit because things are not good. But I think it's a great motion, and we certainly need this service, and let's hope that we can keep that department stable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's a great motion. Similar to what Councilor Rotundo said, with regard to overcrowding, if we've learned anything from this pandemic in our city and, in Chelsea and whatnot, is that overcrowding has contributed to the spread of COVID-19. And if when things start to get back to normal, if we can investigate these apartments and these houses, and houses have occupancy permits for a reason, and they should be adhered to. And when it's suspected and we get the calls as the ward councilors, they should be investigated and there should be action. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And if I may, on the motion, and I will certainly, Madam Clerk, if you can add abandoned properties to this. I just wanted to, kind of bring light to what my meaning of it is. It's not just obviously Safe Housing Task Force. I'd like them to come in front of us and talk about the proactive approach. Everything that we deal with is reactive for the most part. That's not a bad thing. It's understandable. We as councils, the number 2 calls we get, one is for traffic and parking, right? And the number 2 is everyone calling about what they suspect to be a neighborhood rooming house or overcrowded property. Obviously, we've noticed it impact the COVID-19. We've noticed that, there's a direct correlation to people not being able to isolate, people not being able to spread out. So we deal with it every day, and it's very reactionary. And we all know that we can't just have people knocking doors down, but if we have a more proactive approach, I think we'll make the quality of life in the city a little bit better. So I think we need to amp it up. I do understand if there's, and I certainly hope there's not going to be cuts in this department or the inspectional services department, but a lot of this, when you're dealing with absentee landlords and you're dealing with people that are using this as a business that aren't taking care of their properties, the fines that are incumbent upon them are going to pay for that department. So it almost generates a revolving account. The more you do, the more the funds will come in that you can help support the fight. It's like when we talk about speeding. I hate to say it, but I'd be happy to give police officers overtime to deal with speeders on Washington Ave, Council Sereno, or Park Ave. Take all the overtime you want, because every ticket you write is going to write an hour of your pay. We all know that. So I just think that we need to have a much more proactive approach to the housing issues in Revere. And that's really the intent of this motion. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Councilor Keefe. I think, and perhaps with your assistance, that maybe a subcommittee be made for affordable housing. That is clearly the issue that will solve this problem, both for affordable rents and as far as affordable housing. I know it's a word that many people don't like to hear, but you and Councilor Sereno, who've worked with me on various people in this community, know firsthand that there is a need for this. And more importantly, this pandemic has clearly shown how desperate people are. And, if we can move a family, out of living situations that they're in, I think we should consider that, considering that we're going to end up having thousands of properties built over at Suffolk Downs. We need to start thinking about our seniors who in some cases are doing this to just make ends meet. So it's something to think about. Thank you.
Yep. So thank you. So the topic will hopefully be considered, and I'd like to have through the mayor's office and have some reports to the council on a more a better cadence, so we're more up to date on what's going on in the city. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, thank you.
Calendar item number 44, this motion was requested to be withdrawn by Councilor Sereno.
Yep. And so that was in regards to the stickers for yard waste. As you know, they were available through 301. I think City Hall has a few. So I asked Nick Romano to send Ms. Vieira some stickers in the mail, which I believe he did. Thank you, Councilor Sereno.
Calendar item number 46, communication from the mayor requesting an amendment to the revised ordinances of the city of Revere relative to the expiration date for the sale of tobacco licenses.
This is going to be, is the mayor on? Anyone wishing to speak from the mayor's office? No? Okay. This is going to be ordered to a public hearing on June 22nd. All in favor? Opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 47, late motion presented by Councilor Keefe, that the mayor be requested to reopen some of the recreational facilities by June 1st to allow Revere residents the ability to exercise at their leisure. I recognize some restrictions may and should apply, but we need to start lifting some of the restrictions within reason. Further, that the mayor map out a plan for summer youth activities in camps that will be offered so parents can begin planning their return to work.
Councilor Sereno.
Mr. President, thank you. I think this is a great motion. We do need to begin discussing reopening the city, and especially with the summer coming, if, as long as social distancing guidelines can be adhered to, I think we're all eager for everyone to get out and about in our parks and whatnot. So great motion, and I'm looking forward to finally starting to see the city get back to somewhat normal.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. My hopes are, if we're going to do this at the city side, that we can do it congruently with those that own gyms within this community as well. And if we're going to do it, say, just out of the ballpark, say if, for example, the city does it next week, we should also give the gyms that same ability to operate. I think also that we probably need to start thinking about finding ways in order to get masks to people and doing it at a large scale. I know we're doing it through pop-ups and things of that nature, but it's very hard to get PPE out to the community, as I'm noticing down here in the Shirley Ave area. But I gotta tell you, the city's done an excellent job as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors? So just a reminder, there's a 5-day-a-week mass distribution at the Romney Marsh Academy, 9 to 3, I believe. We can follow up on that, but definitely Romney Marsh has been doing a mass distribution. I actually not going to, pat myself on the back. I recommended to the mayor if he's going to be doing some city youth staffing this year, which I'm not sure they're going to be able to, but if they do, they could maybe have some of the youth handing out masks spread out throughout the city and wherever there's large areas, whether it's Revere Beach, et cetera, et cetera. But just going back to my motion, we're talking today about, this budget deficit, and I know this isn't, I'm not talking to outweigh the health versus our health financially versus our health personally, but I do firmly believe that we have to look at a safe and slow way of finding ourselves back to normalcy. And I'm just going to talk about the youth standpoint. Obviously, I have kids, so I can speak on behalf of being a parent and knowing that they're going to go out and do youth activities with or without our permission. That's the facts. Go by any park on any nice day, you're going to see them out there. I'd rather have them doing it with our restrictions and our guidance rather than them doing it without that. And I think it's important. So, you go by all these parks that are locked up and kids are hopping fences. They're destroying property to get into the parks. I'd rather have guidance maybe at the Harry DeRolucia Stadium. Rather than keeping it locked up, they're hopping the fences, maybe hurting themselves or breaking the property. There's someone on there that has sanitizer on hand, and they go around talking to the kids, making sure that they're doing the right thing. Slowly and safely is my motto. The governor came out with a bunch of recommendations today. I know that every 3 weeks he's going to update them. There were some guidance recommendations on youth parks and recreation. I think that we should look at some of that. And then lastly, when it talk about the summer recreation program, which is obviously going to be different if it even happens at all, there's ways that we can plan on doing it so that the kids are not grouped up, doing it in zones, doing it in small groups rather than large groups. But if parents go back to work, let's just say people start going back to work later in June or later in July, and they rely on some sort of daycare, some sort of park and recreation program that they've relied upon for years, and their kids 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they're going to need somewhere to go. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the parents, especially in this community, are going to go back to work, and their kids are going to be left at home by themselves, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. It's going to happen. Rather have an ability for us to offer something, whether it's an outdoor youth camp or whatever it may be, so that we can help take care of those residents safely and slowly. I'm not saying to do anything irrational. I'm not saying to have large gatherings. I'm saying safe and slow, but we have to start thinking about it. We as a council can help shape that. I know that the mayors behind, in the city want to do the right thing as well, but I think it's important for us to send that message. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Council President. To that vein, I will tell you that, under the age of 50 in the state of Massachusetts, and it's always hard to bring up, but with the 5,862 people that unfortunately have passed, under the age of 50, there's only been 76. Under the age of 29, there's only been 7. That age group is the perfect age group to allow out and be cognizant of what they're doing, because they can bring it home to someone older. But reality is, sadly, of the 5,800 plus that have died, only 76 of them have been under the 76. I repeat, 76 under the age of 50. Now, this is what I'm reading from the state site right now as I speak to you. Under the age of 39 is 18. Under the age of 29 was 7. So keeping these people pent up for no good reason isn't there. I mean, the mortality rate is 0.0003%. That's less than practically influenza.
So, I mean, I think you make some good points, Counselor. So, and that's why I'm not, again, I'm talking about slowly and safely, but we have to start thinking about what's the next phase. We do have an attendee wishing to speak. Looks like Ralph DeChico. Well, name and address for the record, sir.
Ralph DeChico, 49 Washington Street. Just a couple of comments, George. I know that they say that the mortality rate is low at those ages, but the problem, you basically said it too, is those young brackets, they can be asymptomatic and they're bringing it back home to the older age. My question to Council President Keefe is, you basically answered your own question, is the kids right now are not following the guidelines of not going into the parks. They're doing it now. So how are we going to control it? So we can't control it now. And listen, I'm going to state right now, I just got in the biggest fight. All right. I'll state it on the record. I had 3 teenagers jumping on my truck. Okay. And just now. All right. And I was going to go crazy on them. That was right at the Revere school. So I do not want to hear that we open up the restriction and we're going to be able to control it. We can't control it now. So before we even think it, we're not controlling it now. So something else has to happen. And kids, you want to come and see my truck. My truck has dents all over it. That you jumped on my truck, on my hood, jumped all the way around it. These kids are irrational, and they're going to be even more irrational.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Mr. President.
Hang on one second. Let me just respond. I'm not sure why people are jumping on trucks. I mean, that's anything COVID or anything going on that doesn't that it's totally irrelevant to this topic. Some kids are going to be disruly. There's no doubt.
No, it's because you tell them to stay out of the park when they're not supposed to be in it now.
So you think it's rational to say stay out of a park and we're going to jump on people's cars?
No,
okay. I'm not really sure what even makes a point. What Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you. Within that vein of having the parks there, obviously we could have a park monitor there, distribute the PPE as well as hand sanitizer, and obviously bring them some information about be careful with those that are going home. I think part of the issue is the frustration of children that they can't go into a park and that they're acting out. I think once we allow them into a park, with the proper monitoring, they're gonna be fine. Just like any other kid, like my kid or your kid.
Right.
And I'm sorry that happened to Ralph,
Yeah,
but
it's-
you know, kids will be kids, and it's being defiant that's probably part of the issue.
Right. And Ralph, I apologize. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm not sure it's relevant. And I'll just say it again. We have speeding. People speed.
No, it is
It should-
relevant because I'm telling them to stay out of the park. There's a sign and they don't like being told that.
Gotcha. Well, they don't like you ever hear the neighbor, stay off my grass? Those kids still do it. It happens. It's going to happen. Kids are going to be kids. We're not going to stop that.
Not teenagers, not 17, 18, 19 years old.
Well, again,
Come
we're
live
talking
down
about
here.
different
Thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback, but again, people speed. Doesn't mean we stop putting police on the streets. We're gonna monitor it, but all I'm recommending and suggestion is we create some guidelines so that we can help work with them, rather than just say, we're not gonna do anything and do whatever you want to do. That's my point. Any other questions?
Roll call.
All in favor? Opposed, so ordered. Madam Clerk, we have Councilor Gino wishing to take a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't sure if you were going to read it. I appreciate that.
Oh, we want to do, yeah.
Well, thank you. As everybody knows, this is going to be a very different Memorial Day for us in the city of Revere. Something that I look forward to, as a resident, is the beautiful ceremony that our Veterans Affairs Director puts on every year to commemorate those that we've lost. So I thought it would be an appropriate way to end this meeting by just taking a moment of silence and just reflecting on all of the veterans that we've lost in the city of Revere in the past, and just having that moment of silence and reflection. So thank you.
We'd all take a moment of silence. Thank you. And I believe Council Visconti, and you have a group of people putting some flags on the lawn of the.
I believe we do, Councilor Sereno and myself included with the Mark Silvestri and the Revere ROTC are going to be putting flags tomorrow on the Legion lawn. I'm honored to be part of that team. I'm looking forward to it. And it should be quite a show. So looking forward
Thank
to
you.
it very much.
Thank
So
you.
with that being said, our next meeting will be June 8th. And we have no further business. Motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Councilor Rotundo.
through you to Councilor Visconti, what time will that be taking place, sir?
I believe at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
That's a wake up time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, June 8th, next meeting. You all have a great Memorial Day, and thank you. Be well, be safe. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe.
be safe. Yep.